Snow gathers thick against the spruce. The wind cuts through the forest like shards of broken glass. A lone trapper kneels beside his dying father, breath sharp, shallow, fading. The flame beside them flickers once, then dies. The silence that follows is louder than any storm. When the fire dies before midnight, survival becomes something else entirely. Out here, warmth isn't a luxury. It isn't even fire. It's rhythm, patience, and an understanding of the cold so deep that it becomes part of you. Tonight, we step into the forgotten art of surviving winter in the age before technology, into the frozen world where trappers, hunters, and native guides endured Arctic blizzards armed with nothing more than fur, instinct, and silence. The trail had long vanished under the storm, white on white, sky and earth blended into one merciless horizon. He could feel the cold crawling through the seams of his coat, searching for skin, stealing warmth wherever it could. He knew better than to build a tent. Canvas would rip, poles would snap, the wind would devour it before he closed his eyes. So he looked around and saw his only ally, snow. If snow could bury a man, he thought, perhaps it could protect one too. He found a drift as tall as his chest and began to dig, slowly, methodically, with hands stiff and trembling. Each scoop of snow became a wall against death. He carved a hollow wide enough for his shoulders, deep enough for his hope. At the bottom, he laid spruce branches, green, fragrant, the last living color of the forest. They lifted him just high enough to escape the ice beneath. Overhead, he stretched his fur coat like a roof, the doorway turned away from the wind, the only direction where mercy still lived. Inside, the world changed. The howling faded. The air grew heavy, still, soft. In that pocket of snow, the temperature rose, 30 degrees warmer than the storm outside. Each breath froze on the walls, sealing the hollow into a cocoon of frost and life. For the first time in hours, he could hear his heart beat again. The snow that kills had turned into shelter, a womb of cold, reborn as warmth. Centuries later, soldiers in the Canadian Arctic still train with this same trick. Because warmth doesn't always come from flame. Sometimes it comes from knowledge, from patience, from the quiet rhythm of survival. The trapper knew another law of the frozen world. If you sleep on ice, you die on ice. The ground steals heat 5 times faster than the air, and no fire can fight that. So he borrowed an older secret, one known to the Inuit long before his time. The double layer of fur, fur in, fur out, warm air trapped between two worlds. He spread one hide fur down on the snow and another fur out around his body. Between them, a layer of breathing warmth, moving with his breath, not against it. Within minutes, the cocoon grew alive with heat, quiet and steady, like a heartbeat. That ancient principle would one day inspire the modern sleeping bag, the Arctic parka, the insulated jacket, ancient design reborn as science, proof that progress often begins with memory. Still, he couldn't rest. The cold beneath him was hungry. The earth pulled heat faster than any wind. So he followed the methods of the Cree hunters and voyageurs who had mastered these lands before him. They called it the bed that breathes, spruce branches stacked 6 inches deep, each layer tangled into the next, trapping invisible pockets of air, nature's insulation. On top, dry moss and grass, soft enough to rest on, dry enough to fight frost. And always, a space beneath the sleeper, just an inch or two, to let warmth circulate, never settle. When he lay back, the forest fell still. The smell of pine filled his lungs. He could feel that thin cushion of trapped air lifting him above the death-cold ground. No dampness, no chill, just quiet warmth circling beneath him like a tide. Today, we call it the air mat. Back then, it was a bed built from instinct and trust in the forest. When the wind eased, he struck a spark. The first died, the second caught. A small flame flickered to life, trembling but alive. He fed it pine needles, then bark, then hope. But the warmth vanished into the storm. The fire burned bright, but its gift was lost to the night sky. So he changed the rules. Behind the fire, he built a wall of logs, not for shelter, but reflection, a barrier of moss and hide to trap air, to hold heat. When the flames rose again, the heat no longer escaped. It turned back, bounced off the wall, wrapped around him like a returning tide. He sat between fire and reflection, in what trappers called the pocket of warmth. 3 logs and a spark, enough to hold back the Arctic. Centuries later, that same idea would reappear in reflective tents, aluminum blankets, and emergency shelters. Different tools, same truth. Heat doesn't care about time, only direction. 3 days into the storm, he had no fire left. The air inside was as sharp as knives. Every breath burned his lungs. Frost formed on his scarf before he could exhale. He realized warmth was leaving him not through his skin, but through his breath. So he took a strip of deer hide and wrapped it across his mouth and nose. Each breath he exhaled stayed close. Moisture trapped, air softened, heat recycled. In minutes, the frost-covered hide became a living filter, 15 degrees warmer than the air around him. That simple act kept him alive, and today the same principle lives on in every cold weather mask, every thermal scarf, different fabric, same survival. On the 4th day, hunger joined the cold. His heartbeat slowed, the shivering stopped, a dangerous silence. But he remembered what the First Nations hunters had taught, the rhythm of survival. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Each breath matched to the pulse, slow, deliberate, calm. The cold was no longer an enemy, it became rhythm. Breath became warmth. The storm outside raged on, but inside he was still. Science now calls it controlled thermogenesis, the ability to raise body heat through breath and focus. Tibetan monks use it. Polar explorers still rely on it. The trappers had known it long before science gave it a name. They didn't conquer the cold, they cooperated with it. The trappers, the hunters, the guides, they survived because they listened. Snow, wind, silence, all spoke the same language. Each gust, each crack of ice was instruction. Warmth wasn't something they created, it was something they earned, through stillness, humility, and respect. Fire could fail, wood could run out, but patience never froze. They learned that warmth wasn't a flame. It was understanding, not defiance, but balance. A truce between man and the storm, because in the Arctic, fire burns out, but rhythm lasts through the night.